In just 8 weeks, a government that had spent 15 years consolidating absolute power was completely dismantled. Sheikh Hasina's fifth cabinet operated with total centralized authority. By June 2024, the administration had effectively neutralized the political opposition and secured control over every major state institution. The first crack appeared at the Bangladesh Supreme Court. The court's decision to reinstate a 30% job quota for the descendants of 1971 veterans meant that most university graduates were suddenly barred from the most stable career paths in the country. Students responded by forming the Anti-Discrimination Student Movement. Their goal was narrow and specific. They wanted the quota system reformed into a meritocracy. But the quotas were the spark, not the fuel. High inflation and years of suppressed political expression had turned the student movement into a proxy for every grievance the public held against the state. The government skipped negotiations and moved directly to brute force. The ensuing crackdown, known as the July Massacre, saw state forces and party affiliates use live ammunition against unarmed student protesters. To justify the violence, officials used the term razakar to describe the protesters. It is a word that carries the weight of national betrayal from the 1971 war, and for the youth, being labeled as traitors ended any possibility of a compromise. On July 18th, the state triggered a total internet blackout, digitally severing the country for 10 days to hide the casualties. But the organizers adapted. The movement decentralized, moving coordination to physical streets and word-of-mouth networks that digital surveillance could not track. The combination of mass casualties and the communication shutdown cost the state its remaining legitimacy. What had been a university protest was now a national survival movement. The brutality brought everyone else into the streets. By early August, students were joined by lawyers, day laborers, and the formal political opposition, creating a coalition crossing every demographic line in Bangladesh. The objective shifted from reform to replacement. On August 4th, the movement announced the one-point demand. The prime minister had to resign immediately. The climax was the march to Dhaka. Even with the military deployed and a second internet blackout in effect, hundreds of thousands of people began moving toward the capital center. The sheer volume of the crowd made state enforcement impossible. When swarms of civilians surrounded police vehicles, the chain of command began to dissolve. By focusing on a single binary demand, the exit of the leader, the movement gave the state no room to stall or offer half measures. On August 5th, the collapse was total. Sheikh Hasina resigned and fled the country by helicopter, ending 15 years of continuous rule in a single afternoon. In Dhaka, the mood turned to celebration. Tens of thousands gathered at Shahbag to reclaim the public squares that had been sites of violence just hours before. But the departure of the cabinet created an immediate vacuum. With the previous government gone, the nation had to quickly assemble an interim administration to prevent a total breakdown of state services. Toppling the leadership was only the first step. The power vacuum forced the country into the difficult work of rebuilding a functioning constitutional framework from the ground up. This period produced its own unique culture of resistance, most notably the concept of 36 July. The youth refused to recognize the month of August on the calendar, mentally extending July until they saw the transition of power. The physical city became a canvas for this transition. Murals and graffiti appeared on walls across Dhaka, documenting the ideology of the uprising and memorializing the students who had been killed. Today, that energy is directed toward institutional reform. New foundations have been formed to ensure that those responsible for the July violence face a transparent legal process. The 2024 uprising demonstrated how decentralized youth networks can outmaneuver a heavily armed central authority. By moving faster than traditional command structures, they turned the state's own tactics into liabilities and cleared the path for a different political future.